Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
It looks like we're all set up and we are available on YouTube as well. I want to make sure I don't have anyone in the waiting room. Looks like we're good. If you don't mind, I have a brief informational statement to read at the end. Those of you who joined us for previous meetings, which is almost everyone here, you've probably heard this before. Thank you and good evening. My name is Penny Holler. I'll be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting. I'm joined here by Director Derek Rogers and additional Parks and Rec staff via Zoom. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in the lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. Each time you speak, please remember to state your name and title for the benefit of those listening remotely. In the menu, you can also turn off your camera by clicking the video icon. For purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on during the meeting. Also, just again, a reminder to state your name and title each time we speak, and that the chair will be capturing votes if necessary from each advisory board member separately. And now I will turn the meeting over to the chair.
Thank you, Penny. Well, everybody, welcome. I'm glad you can make it. And I don't know, but I think Penny sent out the link to the website with the agenda on it. So the first thing I would like to do is go ahead and call this meeting to order and address the first item on the agenda, which are the previous meeting's minutes. If you haven't had a chance to go ahead and review them, if you could go ahead and do so now.
This is Pat Collette. Member, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. There's a motion by Pat Collette to go ahead and approve the minutes. Is there a second out there?
Second. This is Marilyn Hull, board member, second.
Okay, Marilyn Hull with a second. That being the case, are there any further questions regarding the minutes? Seeing as there are none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing as there are none, the minutes are now approved. Thank you, guys. All right. Looks like public comment is our next section. Do we have anybody available for public comment, Penny?
We do not.
Okay. All right. That being said, we'll go ahead and move on to the agenda items. Looks like the first one up is the Parks and Rec reopening plans and mask policy. If you could, just go ahead and let us know a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Lee Ice, Assistant Director, was going to start with that, and if he wants to go ahead and get started, I will do a screen share.
I can definitely do that. I'll talk about, first of all, the mask policy, but it kind of coincides with everything that we visited with Public Health Department, which included Dr. Marcelino, Dr. Scrimsher, and Dan Partridge, that, again, Derek and I, being part of the Unified Command, came up with the recommendations for city parks and recreation services, which kind of ties into that mask policy that we implemented starting today when our buildings opened. At a very low level hourly, and I'll discuss that here in a minute on how we came up with that. But basically what we asked initially is that everyone visiting our facilities are masked 100% of the time. That's whether or not you're a walker, lifting weights,
any activities. You know, we've kind of gone from not being open for virtually 8 months or since March 13th to opening today. And we really need to see what that's going to look like before we expand. And so what I challenge staff with, in my belief, is that every facility is somewhat different because they serve a different part of the community. So what may fit in one side may not fit in the other. Typically, what I've asked them to do is to visit with the people that visit their building, just to find out what they might want or what they may need down the road. When I'm talking 1st of November, we get closer to Thanksgiving, it's starting to get colder. So we do want to expand these hours, but from the safety standpoint of the participants as well as our staff, we wanted to walk before we run. And so we just want to see what it looks like. Plus, and I know some of the comment may be, well, why is it just between that 8 and 5? Because you got people that work before and after. We understand that. Virtually, we've lost 90 to 100% of our part-time people, which are basically in our facilities before and after hours of that 8 and 5. So we're going to have to get additional staff on board to maybe offer additional hours that may be 4 to 7 or 4 to 8 in the evening or something prior to 8 a.m. or adjust our full-time hours to accommodate what those needs are. We don't know what those needs are yet, but we are definitely going to listen and make those adjustments once, and I'll challenge, and I have challenged the staff to find out what that need might be, and then we could possibly implement changing the hours, adding days, doing weekends. But again, we've been out 8 months as far as open to the general public. As far as drop-in use, our classes have been open since June, but now we're bringing in drop-in people to also, we're trying to schedule around the classes so we don't have everybody in the building at the same time. And so again, we're going to see how that works so we don't have too many people. The masks, 100% of the time, was again a recommendation by the health department. Since we are still in the yellow, even in the green, we're looking at keeping everybody 100% masked at this point in time. That's something that we can adjust because it is a recommendation. It just depends upon how far we get below that 5% and whether or not we really want to do that, because it seems to be working. We're slowly, gradually going down, and we don't want to be part of the spread if it's working. So that, in a nutshell, is basically how we came about. The hours, how we're implementing. We started a little bit later, maybe a week later than I anticipated, because we wanted to get to the end of our classes. For instance, Gail has our seniors that were done on their first session, and that session of summer stuff was done Friday. So we wanted to start it at the beginning of what their classes are going to be like starting today, and all of them knew going in that it would be 100% masks. So haven't heard any issues yet today. Gail went from 177 people in her classes to 170. So we only lost 7 in that when transferring over towards that mask policy. And we're hoping that the numbers will pick up. Not a whole lot of people that were at our centers today. Those that were there, from what I heard from staff, were very appreciative that we opened the doors. And so not much negative, no problems with masks today. It's just the first day. And I'll try to answer any questions anybody might have.
Hey, Lee, this is John Blazik.
Yes, sir.
One, last month I made a comment that you're not going to please anybody. I mean, 50 are going to like it and 50 not. I think you did a really great job on what you call a soft opening. I think you're feeling it out, what you need. I think the population knows the masks. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think it was, when this hit, 6, 7 months ago. I think you guys will be fine, because I think you've done a lot of talking. Like I said, you aren't going to please anybody, but you're trying to do it the right way. And I compliment you and Derek and all the hours you guys spend on trying to decide what you're going to do. But I think they'll be fine with masks.
Appreciate that, John. And this is Lee, assistant director. Again, visiting with staff, I wanted to get their buy-in too, and making sure that they felt safe. And so the reason the hours are somewhat different, one was because if the hours at SPL didn't fit somebody, then maybe they could go to Holcomb. That's a different time. I don't necessarily believe it needs to be everybody has the same hours at every location. I think if we stagger those in other places, then they have options to go someplace else. And again, I really look to expand those hours once we get past the 1st of November.
This is John Blazik, Lee, and you know, that's even something I didn't mention, where you give options to the community at different places. That's even another feather in your hat. But you mentioned a word, you know, you like to get input from your employees. Well, you've been around athletics enough that, you know, collaboration and input is is the greatest trait in the world for leadership. And I really compliment you for getting your thoughts, because, you know, when you get your thoughts of your employees and they get empowered, there's going to be good things. But I think you and Derek have done a great job working on getting this open. And I'm not sure who else is on the committees, and I know you spend a lot of hours on Zoom. So compliments to you, buddy.
Just trying to listen. Thanks.
I have a question. This is Sandy Hall, board member. So on the previous slide, with the hours, it also had registration, which were different hours than what the facility was open. What is that registration about?
This is Lee, assistant director. The registration hours should coincide with the drop-in hours at most of the facilities. Now, SPL has been a little bit different because that registration, that front desk has been open since June. We have an administrator, or Paula Craig is out there taking registration as classes are going on, even though we don't have drop-in use. So if somebody wants to come in and sign up for basketball, they want to sign up for a different class, or if they want to sign up or look for a reservation in one of our facilities, they could go to that location. So the registration hours will mirror the drop-in hours at every of those locations right now. So they could go in and register for a class or another activity that's coming up.
Okay.
Do we have any further questions for Lee?
Yeah, this is Val Renault, board member. So East Lawrence Rec Center, for example, is just open 3 afternoons during the week. So aside from classes, there are no reservations available. Is that correct?
This is Lee, assistant director. Yeah, I needed to add to that is that the houseless community that we've been providing the showers for at the outdoor aquatic center since we did it 53 days, beginning sometime back in June, may have been before that. I don't know exact date. That we provided the showers for those without homes on Monday, Fridays from 1 until 4. We anticipated it getting cold, and we wanted to designate another facility that they can go to. With the help of Stephen Mason and the facility operations people, we came up with East Lawrence Center as the safest place that we could accommodate that on Tuesday, Fridays in a separate time frame, where we may have anywhere from 10 to 30 people taking showers in a safe, clean, gives us an opportunity to clean after they're done, to be able to open up those hours later possibly. And so again, we had to schedule around. What we did first of all was looked at what facilities weren't currently used for activities. And Joe and Gail, community building was used a lot. And so we couldn't fit in the houseless, the showers in a way that could accommodate. We've also provided bus passes for those individuals that can't get there. So it was a process of when we closed the aquatic center, we gave them 2 weeks notice, we posted signs, we told them what the move was going to look like, the days, we gave them bus passes. So it's re-educating them of a different location. So that's why the hours are somewhat different at East Lawrence Center right now. But believe me, Stephen's ready to open even more. I mean, we're going to get to weekends, we're going to get to mornings. I had to back him off particularly because he was ready to go full bore. But again, trying to accommodate the needs of those that need showers, classes, drop-in use, everything. And if you think about it right now, what I thought about particularly is the hours is that, yeah, it doesn't fit those people that are currently working that 8 to 5. but if you look at the seniors that are retired, I mean, a lot of them like to come in really early to get their workouts done and to walk. I mean, I made the example, and John may have seen them even out at Sports Pavilion at one time, a group of individuals that walk constantly every day. It may only be 2 laps, and then they sit and have a coffee. I looked out my window when my office was out there, and those 4 to 6 individuals were drinking coffee in their lawn chairs in the parking lot. It was more the mental aspect that they just wanted to see their friends. They may live alone, and they look forward to coming and giving that 1 or 2 laps around the track. So again, educating them of the hours. We want them back in our buildings, expanding those hours when we can in a safe environment for everyone. And so staff is really excited. It's been a long time that we've been able to do the things that we've been asked to do from a recreation standpoint. And believe me, we want to get our facilities open as anybody else.
Hey, Lee, this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. I had a question regarding just a kind of follow up to Val. This is great, especially what you're doing for the houseless. Is there any way that you guys are going to be able to, put that information out there to let people know? Because it was the first time I heard something about this, and I mean, people don't know how much that you guys do for this community, and I think any way that you guys can to go ahead and spread the word would be great.
This is Lee again with the Parks Assistant Director. I thought Roger had a flyer out. I mean, he put a lot of neat caricatures on it and the shower and soap and everything that we do. I don't know where that is on our website and how that's been promoted. Pretty much, and you're right, I don't disagree with you, Bart, that we need to do a better job of getting that information out possibly and letting people know what we actually do in Parks and Recreation. But I know that we have, for a 2-week period, we made sure down at the pool that those people that needed it, they were aware of it. But I think overall we need to let the community know as well what we do. And I really think this is a win-win. I mean, we talk about the new norm and possibly doing things a little bit different than just doing things the way we did. And I'm really one, and Derek could probably vouch for me, I'm really big on providing scheduled opportunities for the showering to happen and with DARE coming on board. And if we could offer 2 days and they can offer 2 days that are specifically designated for in those timeframes, we could possibly make sure that showers are given 4 or 5 days a week. My staff and the help of the maintenance staff, we're even offering the towel service. So we've gotten towels from DARE. We're issuing those towels. They leave them. Maintenance staff picks those up afterwards. They take them to the community building. They wash them. They dry them. They take them back. And so we're providing a towel service for them as well. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. And the colder it gets, there's going to be more and more of those that we're going to have to be aware of as they come in.
This is Pat Phillips, board member. Lee, I had one other question. I know there's a limit as far as number at Prairie Park Nature Center. Do you have a limited capacity in any of your facilities once, a lot more people start to enter?
Lee, Assistant Director, that's a specific question that we asked the health department. And as long as everyone is 100% masked, we did not have those limitations. Now, if you look at 130,000 square feet at Sports Pavilion, how many people is that, in a safe environment? Again, these are conversations that we will continually have with the health department as it gets colder and more people are coming inside. We even talked about tournaments. If we had tournaments at SPL, what would that look like? It would be limited to 2 spectators per participant. We would be required to be masked 100% of the time. Tournament teams would have to come in from communities that are boundaried by Douglas County. So we wouldn't take Wichita, Omaha, places all over the region. So it's really going to limit those tournaments if we have any at all. But we're really trying to tone it down as much as we can. I can assure you, like our youth basketball leagues that typically have 800 to 1,000 have 100 or 200 in them right now because they're going to be required to wear masks as they play. And so it's the choice of the individuals, whether or not they want to participate or not. But that was at the direction of and recommendation of Douglas County Health. Because it was a high-risk sport and we modified it with masks, they enabled us to play that in the yellow. Otherwise, it's a high-risk sport that you can't play. And so to accommodate the opportunity for those that wanted to play, we said, you know, if they wear masks, would that be modification enough? And they agreed to that.
Thank you.
So the number question I didn't maybe answer directly, but even the cardio equipment that are side by side, people typically are looking straight ahead, not side to side. And if they're wearing a mask, they felt it was okay, and we didn't have to turn every other one off, because that would have limited to like 2 or 3 people in East Lawrence Center. And I've asked Stephen and the other staff member, typically at the most they may get in there is 4 or 5, maybe on a given time. And if people feel it's unsafe, they probably won't go in there anyway. Mask or no mask.
This is Val Renault, board member, and I just kind of wanted to add to what Bart was saying about letting our light shine. You know, it's those of us who've lived here for a while know the journal world doesn't do much of anything anymore. It used, in the old days, it might have, you know, had a photo and a little feature. So it seems like maybe one of the ways we can help market the good work is just on our own Facebook pages, or, you know, that Roger's doing everything he can to market it, but somehow if we can help spread the word a little more, I think that's something I keep trying to remind myself to do, actually, to look at the Facebook page and see if there's something to share, because that is pretty amazing. I think a lot of people in town don't know about those shower opportunities.
And Val, I'm going to add to that, Lehi's assistant director. I'm going to give some shout outs and credit to Derek on this, because he's been behind the scenes on all of the houseless, whether it be the tents, the camping, the trailers, that we are really trying to focus a lot of upcoming winter on what we can do to transition into that weather to help that community in some way, and trying to do it proactive rather than reactive after it already happens and it's 0 degrees and they have no place to go. And so I think Craig is very well aware of that. And I think Derek may have been tasked to it, whether he wanted to or not. I think he's done a terrific job of focusing in on that, because doing it now, focusing on it when it's 80 degrees rather than when it's 0 is when we need to do it. And so the winter months, hopefully we have things in place that whether we get credit for it or not, that's not the issue. It's what's best for the community. And I think that's, again, Parks and Rec, we've done a lot, and people think we may have been shut down, not doing nothing or not much, but I can assure you there's been a lot behind the scenes that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Hi, this is Bart Littlejohn, chair again. Yeah, that was honestly one of my points, is that, you know, just to let people know that, hey, you guys aren't sitting around twiddling your thumbs. You guys are doing work. So
Been different.
Yeah, Derek Rogers, Director of Parks Recreation. What you're seeing on your screen, if you look at where we came from when we started off, right after the initial COVID, the pandemic started, and we had the phase 1, 2, 3 and phase out plan. And it seemed like we were learning how to crawl. And by the time we started working with public health and working with other cities in the county, and you see what you have before you, I think it was a lot of work with a lot of input from all kinds of community members to get something that's a lot more consistent, a lot more well thought out and well communicated. A great example of that is Lee's able to present extremely well on this document and how it plays out. And the key is to get it down to that level that the person working at the front desk at a rec center understands what the importance of wearing a mask is and why it came that way, instead of, well, I don't know, you call the director and he can tell you about this. I think it goes into, as we get colder too, this is pretty conservative for safety, not only for the community, but for our staff. And
as we go into the fall and it gets colder, what I'd rather be in a position of maybe we were a little too conservative on our precautions than, oh, we loosened up too early and now we are having an outbreak at a site and going down that road. So I'm very, very pleased with how well so far it's been received by the public. The great job that the recreation staff has done with wrapping their arms around this and getting our doors open and getting some public back in our facilities.
Thank you, Derek. Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. Does anyone else have any more comments for Lee on this? Okay, I'm not
Hearing or seeing anything. With that, thank you guys for presenting and keeping us updated on this. We really appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move to our next item, which is the update on Mutt Run Dog Park and the public meeting. I believe, Mark, that would probably be you.
That is me. Good evening, Mark Hecker, Assistant Director. I'm going to try to share a screen here. So the meeting we had was on September 30th. Well attended. I think we had 100-ish people there. Had City Commissioner Larson there, members of the city management staff. Pat Collette stopped by, I think. I don't know if anybody else from the advisory board was there, but very well attended, lots of comments. You know, obviously the overwhelming comment was conversation about 27th Street extension, but we also were able to kind of talk through some improvements that are possibly needed at the dog park. And what I'm showing you here is the culmination of the online survey. So that closed last Friday. And if I can get this to move, it doesn't want to move. The highest rated item coming out of the survey was the safety fencing, which is nice for what we've been talking about. The modern restroom kind of got the second highest vote, and then the water spray features kind of came up with some other votes. So nothing real surprise here. Dog wash station was highly thought of. So those are all things that as we move to our next meeting, which will be the 28th of October, we'll try to cost out some of those things and start talking about, okay, if we do this, how much would that be? What's our phase-in process? Before we get to October 28th, on October 20th, the 27th Street Extension Project will go to the City Commission. So that's MSO taking that forward to at least gauge the temperature of the City Commission, see if we're interested in doing this, see if we're accepting the grant, see if that's moving forward. So I think that's probably good timing on our part, is to understand what the City Commission is thinking on that project. There's obviously a fairly organized group of folks that are against the road project. I think that there's probably a much larger group that are for the road project that are just kind of being silent at this point. Towards that end, the MSO engineering division is recommending having a steering committee. The steering committee would be used with a consultant to help design the road if the City Commission moves it forward. On that committee, there'd be representatives from the Arboretum, the baseball folks, soccer folks, football, dog park, transportation commission, trails organizations, and the Park and Rec Advisory Board. Penny sent out an email earlier asking for those that might be interested. We got a response from John Navanian and Val, both said they were interested. So unless there's others that want to take their place, we'll move forward that way. Basically, this group will work just so everyone has kind of an equal voice on the design and location of the road. You know, we're hearing a lot of talk from the dog park folks. And I truly believe that we can solve all the problems. I don't think the road is going to impact the dog park to where we can't have a dog park that's highly functional. And on the other side, yeah, I think if you look at it from the sports side on the soccer and football, there's a lot of things we want to make sure happen correctly there too. That we probably don't want to route traffic through the complex. We probably want to route it around the complex. So if you're at the adult softball complex, we don't want you driving through the youth sports complex to go out the back way. So it's a continuous process. There'll be a lot more conversation before we're done, but I think it's a good conversation. I'm really, honestly, we needed to probably look at the dog park a little bit and say, okay, it's good, but how could it be better? And I think that's what this survey does, is starts to define, what are people thinking that is important. There's lots and lots of comments put in there too. And if you're interested, you can go on the Lawrence Listens and click to the surveys and then past surveys, and you can see the results of everything. But answer any questions if you have them.
Mark, this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. I apologize that I wasn't able to make it out to the event you're talking about. I was unfortunately under the weather. Did you guys give them a tour, or did you have any sort of placards or anything outlaying the plans for everybody to see?
Now, most of them had the original plan we came out with, just kind of the overview, and here's where a fence could go, here's where the road could go. So most of them had seen that before. And what we did that night is just kind of point at, here's a soft surface path. Do we need more of these? Or here's a mowed path. Is that what you want? If we moved a fence, where might we move the fence? Talked about the restroom and its limitations. So, I felt like there's good participation. Once we kind of got them talking a little bit, I felt like it was, you had 100 people and 112 dogs, I think. So it was kind of a fun meeting.
This is John Nalbandian, board member. Mark, can you tell us what kind of coordination is going on between the MSO staff and Parks and Rec?
We're working together on all of this. So I view this as two projects. One is the road project. MSO is going to run that project. We'll run the dog park improvements. So we kind of got to know what each other's doing. If we know the road's going through and where it's going through, then we need to adjust the dog park to compensate for that. We proposed the original project in the CIP. MSO picked it up and is running with it for construction. That's what they do. They build roads. So I'm pretty confident in their ability to construct a road. Now, because it's in a park, we get a lot more public engagement maybe than they might on some other roads. And there's a lot of user groups that have specific interest on this road. So, I think we're working hand in hand. We do want to separate a little bit, that MSO is working on that piece and Parks and Rec's working on this piece, but it's surely not disconnected.
Do you think the residents who are interested understand that level of coordination?
That's a good question. I think, quite honestly, I think we probably need to get to the city commission so that we can understand what they're thinking. Are they somewhat in favor of this and want to see a design, or they've heard enough negative that they're standing opposed to that?
You're talking about the road or the
road? Yes.
So the road is going to be presented to the city commission separately than the dog park, even though the dog park people are the ones who are most opposed to the road?
Yeah, I think the road is going to go first. So that's what's driving this whole thing. When the grant got announced for the road, it's what kind of stirred the pot a little bit, I guess.
Okay, I guess I'm not your political advisor, but
I'll take
if I were on the council, that's not what I'd want to see.
Derek Rogers, Director of Parks Recreation. The first piece that goes to is the Planning Commission on the 28th.
I think that's probably where a lot of this needs to start before it goes to the city commission. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, on that.
So the first public discussion will be the city commission approving the grant and moving forward with hiring a design consultant. So that's on the 20th, and then it goes to the planning commission after that.
Do you have an advocate on the city council?
I think so.
Who is that?
Commissioner Larson's been involved.
Larson?
Yeah, I mean, she's been coming to the meetings and seems interested in solving the problem, so.
Do you, okay.
I believe she's a plus side.
Okay, I guess I'm stretching my bounds here. Okay, I'll just hang back.
John, this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. Actually, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it because I was thinking the same thing. I had an opportunity to see the City Commission meeting this past Tuesday, and it does seem, from my limited point of view, that residents are they are not able to separate the projects. They consider them very much intertwined, and they were not quite understanding, if MSO hasn't decided where the road's going to be yet, why are we talking about the dog park? You know, that sort of thing. So I think probably some more communication or information in that regard about the separation of the projects, and that they're not necessarily the same projects, and kind of an outline of where each one is going might, you know, serve to help it a little bit. But my own personal opinion, that was kind of the sense I got from the meeting on Tuesday.
We'll look at how the memo is presented to the city commission and see it, make sure we can add language about the dog park portion of the project. A lot of people have assumptions on what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. And quite frankly, nothing's been designed. So some of the rumors are not accurate, I would say.
I have a comment on that. From being at that meeting, the comments all around me were basically, the city's already decided to build this road. You know, why are, what's the point in talking about it? You know, there was really that sense of, for that group, that of the comments that I heard. So I do think some work needs to be done to, because there seemed to be a sense that, the public was being involved at a late stage for the discussion of this. So, and like you say, that's not necessarily true, but that's the perception. So probably something needs to be done to, to let people know, what the possibilities are as far as input along the way. And, some of the comments were, well, they're just, talking about improvements to the dog park to appease us from this other project, or to divert our attention from this other project. So it was really the sense that I got from that group.
Derek Rogers, Director for Parks and Recreation, and I was out there too, and it was an interesting
discussion with some folks afterwards. From a director perspective, I've talked about improvements to the dog park since I've been here, because I think there's things that need to be done. Now, from that meeting, I think some of the folks, their perception was, just leave us alone and we'll deal with the mud and some of the pooling water, and we're more than happy. From the director's perspective, I try to look at all users, don't favor one over the other. And I think the other thing I got out of that, there was a perception, which that project, the 27th Street, is a MSO project. But I think some people think that, the road could happen or it could not happen. But let's say it does happen, the perception is it's got to be where the existing maintenance road is. And that's not the case. I have talked with MSO, had a discussion with them. They have no preconceived notions. I think the planning meeting and some of their processes to engage the community on, if there is a road, where should that road be? They can build a road anywhere. It's just a matter of money, I guess. So I think that should be encouraging to all the users out there. Are there compromises that may satisfy everyone? everyone may have to give a little bit, but not everyone, or not one user group giving everything. So I'm encouraged that MSO is going to put forth a good process, and I look forward to the 28th Planning Commission meeting.
This is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. Derek, thank you for saying that. I'm glad to hear that, because I think it'll go a long way, alluding to what Pat said, to have people thinking that they're in the beginning of this process as opposed to the end of it. So,
This is John Albandian, board member. So conceptually, I think what's happening here is that the citizen perception and engagement does not correspond to the departmental boundaries. I mean, people are not, they're not divided in their minds that this is MSO, this is Parks and Rec. No, you know, we're divided that way. And our structure is that way. And we're looking at the problem from the basis of our structural perspective, trying not to, but we are. And that does not correspond to the way that citizens see it. And so the more that we can do to drop those internal boundaries in terms of communicating with the public, the better we are going to be able to connect to their thinking. I hope that makes sense.
Derek Rogers, Director of Parks Recreation. I agree with your thought process there, John. And
like I said, I look forward to being part of at least being at the Planning Commission. And yeah, we need the both. We're engaged. We're like two pieces of a Twix cookie in a way. You can't have one without the other. But at the same time, you know, the park's been there. I think we've got one of the coolest and best dog parks in the nation. I'm definitely biased. But it's pretty awesome, and I think it's a huge community resource, and I totally get where people are so ingrained and passionate about their dog park. I didn't understand that. I did. Sorry.
If there's any other questions, yeah, I'm certainly open to suggestions. This thing took off like a rocket based on a
grant announcement, and that, you know, quite frankly, it's had its own life that we're trying to kind of rein it back a little bit. So it's interesting to try to get ahead of, because they're highly organized.
And this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair again, and I assume that you guys will be sharing the results from Lawrence Listens with the corresponding groups that are involved in this project as well.
Yeah, Mark Hecker, Assistant Director. Yes, that'd be the next meeting we have. We'll basically go through the survey and also try to cost out some of those items, and, you know, determine if we move forward with improvements, what's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and get that conversation going. And, you know, I'm encouraged by the way these pointed out, because there's some of the things that I would consider the most important actually ended up with the higher percentages. So a couple of things I thought maybe would have pointed higher would have been the heated restrooms, as opposed to just a flush toilet, that we would have a facility that's open year round. That didn't point out very well, but most of the other things I think are pretty well on track with what I feel like are important items.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions for Mark? Not seeing anything or hearing anything. All right, thank you for your information, Mark. We appreciate it, and keeping us updated on this. Like you said, it was kind of threw everybody for the loop in the beginning, but I think hopefully in the end, this will be something that we can all be pointing in the right direction on. So our next item is looks like it's board member terms and and reappointments. I believe that would probably be Penny, right?
Correct. Penny Holler, Management Analyst. I am here to help us with all the fun details. And just a few process updates on this. Let me see if I once again share my screen. There we go. So you'll notice that this is the same website that all of your board member agendas are now being sent out on. I just wanted to, in some ways, just bring this to your attention that this is out here. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board has their own website. It's a resource for you. This contains the bylaws, policies. We are working on getting, since COVID, all the recorded meetings out here, the meeting notes. So this is really a reference for anyone with questions on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Also has a helpful tracker on here. So it lists board members and it lists their terms. You can see it visually. So what I'm looking for when I look at this at the end of every year is which terms are ending at the end of the year, to work on asking the question if advisory board members would like to be reappointed. If the answer is yes, there's a form available and that goes to the mayor. If the answer is you've had so much fun with us, but there's other opportunities you'd like to take advantage of, I take that information and also, again, work with City Hall and the mayor on a new appointment. So as we're ending 2020, you can see that there are 3 Parks and Rec Advisory Board members whose terms are tentatively scheduled to end. So if you're wondering for yourself, where am I in this process? Hopefully you can follow the chart and see when your term is scheduled to end and for you to consider requesting reappointment. I was also very pleased when I looked on this chart that the bottom green line as your board liaison, I'm out here till a good 2031. So I'm really excited about my job security with the city. So I'm pretty sure I'm in here for the long haul. So welcome those who are also gonna stay with me here. So again, just this is a brief process update. Whether it's when does my term end, what are my restrictions on free speech or anything like that as a board member, any questions like that, please send them to me. If I can't answer them, we'll make sure we get them answered for you and we'll bring them to the rest of the advisory board. So no action is required from other advisory board members for the terms. But again, if there were to be a new appointment or something else happening like that, I would definitely make sure to keep the board involved in that as well.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions for Penny on this? All right. I don't see.
Hey, Bart, this is Marilyn, sorry. This is Marilyn Hull. It took me a while to get unmuted. I have had 2 people in the last 3 months who are interested in joining the advisory board, and they're asking me about the process.
Mm-hmm. I have a very simple answer about that.
Okay.
So on the city's website, so this is actually the page that lists all city advisory boards, and I will send out this link, so you don't have to write anything down right now. I will send this out tomorrow morning. But you'll see this lists all of the advisory boards and committees. And there's actually on this page, I know it's on here, but it'll take me a second to find it. There's an application for anyone who is interested that they can fill out, and that goes to City Hall to express their interest in participating in boards and commissions, and they would have the ability to request anything specific as there would be openings available. So I'm just not seeing it offhand, but I will again make sure I send that link out as well. It is just a fill-in form that's included on this page and available publicly.
So how does it work? Or do the existing members that are interested in reappointment, do they get first dibs over other applicants, or are all the applicants, including the current members, evaluated together?
Yep, that's a great question. So the process for that actually is outlined in this ordinance, although it is a little vague whether a current board member has preference. So it walks through the request for reappointment process in essence. So it talks about the terms and all of that. Here, I will stop sharing my screen. The long and short of it is, it's ultimately up to appointment by the mayor. So that would be not a decision that staff would make. It's not something that other advisory board members work with. So that when I know either way, I will request, do you want to be reappointed? If the answer is yes, I will send that along for further action. There's also a form to fill out to, again, continue to express that interest. So I don't know if there's an answer specifically to, will it be held? Will you have preference? I don't know. I mean, those of us who've been with the board for longer would say likely, from what I know as a general rule, you know, if you request reappointment, there's some likelihood that will happen, but there's no requirement that occur.
Good deal. Penny, I think that form you were looking at was on the main page. I think your cursor was right next to it. I think it was one of those click here, like links.
In the middle of the page.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Zoom is also on my screen, so I'm working on.
Can you put it on the other side?
Half a screen. Let's see if I can do this.
Drag it over. There you go.
Okay. You'll bear with me. Let's see if I can do this quickly.
Click here to view current upcoming vacancies to volunteer for a board. Right in the middle, right there.
There we go. This is an eyesight test because the click here for me, the screen is 6 feet away, is a little small. Here we go. So yes, this would be the page that you would look at. And I know there we go. General board application, this is it. So this general board application, this is the fillable online field that you can create. So if you have friends or people that you talk to that are interested in participating in city boards and commissions, direct them this way.
Hey Penny, this is John Blazik, board member.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I see three of us. Are all three of us coming back, asked for reappointment?
I think that's still in process. I can say I've asked all three of you if you would like to be reappointed. So that's really the state that it's in now. We're a little early. It's October, so there's a little time for the process.
Okay. I've had some people ask the same thing about applying. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Any further questions? All right. Well, I mean, hey, I'm glad to hear we're so popular. That's awesome. So, but hey, and that's just, you know, one of the examples of the great work that you guys do, Derek and Penny and Lee and Mark. So I think you guys should take that as a plum in your cap. So that's awesome. All right, moving on. I believe our next agenda item is concerns of the board members or items of interest. Do we have anything from anyone?
Bart, John Blazik, I do. Board member. I'd like to, I'm going to say Derek, I guess, because he's kind of the bikist. I started riding the trail. And for you people who have not been on the bike trail, it's gorgeous. I would compliment you. I've never been a biker like that. I've been riding now for about 3 weeks. The bike trail is really cool for this community. I'd also like to compliment, and I don't know his name, the manager, director out of Rock Chalk Park. That young man is really organized. And what a great person to work with. He called me on some meetings and things like that. And I'd never been called before, so compliments to him. And I just want to throw a curveball out. You know, we moved our meeting, when I started, it was always at noon. We moved our meeting to 5:30, and as I've looked back, we've had very few of any people, because I know we moved it to 5:30 because people thought we'd have more people attend. I don't think we've had any. Any thought about moving it back to noon for some reasons in the winter? One, we have nobody show the way it is at 5:30. Noon is better for me, so that's why I'm bringing it up. And I also look at the rec employees to where they don't have to stay late for a meeting when they could do it during the day, if we're going to Zoom it anyway. So I just want to throw that out for any thought process. Maybe in the winter months when it gets dark at 5 o'clock, we can meet at noon and do it for 4 or 5 months. Just a thought.
And Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation, we're here for you guys, and really that's a board decision. So if the board wants to look at adjusting times, we'll support whatever you guys come up with.
Derek, John Blazik, I thought we were told by the mayor to move to 5:30.
The times, I think, are left up to the mayor may have had conversations with the board director, but I think that the board ultimately sets the times, and it's not the Parks and Rec department for the times of the meeting.
Okay. I've never talked to the mayor, so I don't know. I just thought we were forced to move to 5:30 so people could attend. Does anybody else have any thoughts at noon?
This is Marilyn Hall, board member. That wouldn't work for me. And I also think it's important to stick with 5:30, even though we don't have people come very often. We have had people a few times, and especially that one time when we were discussing the closing of the community building and other changes, we had a room full of people. And so even though people mostly don't come, I think it's valuable to still hold the meeting at a time that is more accessible for more people.
This is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. John, I might agree with Marilyn on that one. It's just that in thinking about it, a lot of people really can't, they have to work during the day and really can't afford to go ahead and take off time during the middle of it. So I think the evening might work out a little bit better for just the possibility of anybody showing up for comment. Does anybody else have any opinions on this?
This is Pat Phillips, board member. For me, it wouldn't work personally because I'm semi-retired, but I'm still working, and I wouldn't be able to be available. But I also feel, because of what you just made reference to, Bart, people that do work are more available to attend or listen to these meetings after work, which I think the 5:30 time makes more sense.
This is John Nalbandian, board member. It might also affect the people who could apply to be board members. So it basically, I think what it says is, if you work full time, you can't be a board member for Parks and Rec because we meet at noon.
This is Sandy Hall, board member. I just concur with others that feel like 5:30 is probably the better time. I'm just chiming in agreement.
And this is Pat Collette, and board member, and I also agree with that. The 5:30, I think, makes more sense. For participation as a board member, as well as the potential for people attending meeting. I think it sends the wrong message to have it in the middle of the day that makes it impossible for people who work to come to those meetings.
This is John Blazik. I understand your thoughts. I have no problem. I just know the first 2 years we met at noon. It worked very well. How many board members of the 9 work now? I don't know. I would assume Bart does. I don't have.
This is Val Renaud.
John, is that ageist?
You're 24, brother. I know you're working because you have a little one.
Yeah, this is Val Renaud, board member, and I'll throw in with the majority. I think we've talked, at least I talked once, about wanting to get more young people on the board too, you know, and since most of them do probably have traditional work hours, that kind of daytime slot would be difficult. Maybe something late afternoon, you know, could be a better compromise. But if we have another community building turnout, I think, yeah, we want to be there for the public.
All righty. Just wanted to get a thought.
Yeah, thanks, John. And yeah, thanks everybody for giving an informal opinion. So I hopefully, I mean, but John does bring up a pretty prescient point that I would hope that more people would attend our meetings if they, granted, it's also a good thing because that means we're doing something right, supposedly, but you know, if anybody wants to participate in the process, that availability is of the utmost importance. So
Bart, this is John, and I agree with you. I do. I also want to remind you people, been in the school business a lot of years. Don't forget, parents that are younger will have kids and they'll be involved in a lot of activities. So that's a reason why you don't get a whole lot of younger parents volunteer for night activities, because they have plenty within their family. So, all right, it's just good discussion. We did it for 2 years and it worked. All right, no problem.
all right. Thanks everyone. And I think the last thing is the staff update. Did anybody have any comment on the staff update of any sort?
Before we move on to that, this is Pat Phillips. Bart, I want to ask Derek a question about the Woody Park campsite project, which again is another thing that Parks and Rec are doing beyond what usually Parks and Rec does. And I hope the community is made known of this project. And I know that, you know, for safety, it has to have some policies and regulations with, you know, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, those kinds of things. So obviously there are people that aren't going to be comfortable or want to abide by that, and they'll still want to pitch a tent down, you know, in different areas in the park. With you having this option of this campground, will people that choose not to participate and do their own thing because they still want to use or whatever, will they be allowed to still camp on those areas like down by the river and other sites, or is that not going to be allowed anymore?
And you bring up Derek Rogers, Lawrence Parks and Recreation. You bring up some fantastic questions.
Philosophical things to think about. Whether we have a sanctioned formal campground, which was what was approved for the Woody Park on a temporary basis pilot program, or we have informal, unsanctioned camping where it may be the people are dry and sober and not doing anything to bug anybody, to they may be possible drug use. To enforce something like that with our current staff and prioritizing the needs of the park system and what we're doing, that there's no way that even if in a perfect world where we had all the resources at our ability, at our fingertips, and we had a solution to the homeless, which I don't think anybody worldwide has solved homelessness. That's still going to happen regardless. So last count I heard, Douglas County, I think, has 408 considered homeless individuals. in the county. Of that, 140 are unsheltered. The community building, the Lawrence Community Shelter, which has a waiting list, with COVID restrictions, is housing approximately, I think, roughly 25 to 30 individuals, and there's a waiting list. I don't see a lot changing. I do see there are individuals where Woody Park will work out exceptionally well, and out of that 140, I'm sure we will easily get 20 that will go in there that hopefully we can get placed in some type of housing through Burt Nash and other social services. As we went through this process with Douglas County, which is a strong co-partner, and Burt Nash and some of the other nonprofits, we were very, very open to hearing what the neighborhood association, the businesses, the Woody family, LMH had to say, their thoughts, their concerns in the neighborhood. And some of the concerns are there, whether there's an informal campground all over Lawrence or there's a formal one, and trying to be considerate on how can we try to take care of what we can for the people that we can and still be good neighbors in the community. And I think we can do this in such a way that maybe people across the nation go, hey, look, Lawrence figured it out. in a pilot program came up with a better solution than some of the other places around the country that maybe weren't as successful. There's a few success stories around the country, and I'm really hoping that we're one of them. And I agree with what you're saying. I may not have given you a good answer, but there will always be camping in Lawrence, and there probably has been since the turn of the last century.
So with knowing that, are they going to be allowed, or will they be pushed out and told that they have to go to the other?
In the screening process, they're going to look at the most vulnerable in the community. So they're going to look at the physical and the mental capabilities. And then the third thing is they need to be meeting the needs of the vulnerable, and they need to be willing to comply with the code of conduct. In that code of conduct, it talks about drug use, not acceptable, bringing in weapons, things like that. So they need to meet those three criteria: agree to the rules and meet the mental and physical requirements of the most vulnerable.
Yeah, and I recognize that maybe I didn't ask the question. I was talking about those that are wanting to camp other places. Will they be pushed out because there is a campground offered?
Okay, I see where you're going. Is the city or Parks and Rec going to try to steer people from a camp location that is heavy? No, that is not going to be the case. Initially, when we looked at this back in early spring, I was thinking, here's a great opportunity. We had a few less homeless people than we do right now, that maybe we could do that. And in working with the nonprofits, the Burt Nashes, the Family Promises, the county, and the Burt Nashes and the nonprofits are the experts in this field, and their recommendation was to go for the most vulnerable and not moving people out of an area.
All right, thank you.
I have something real quick. This is Sandy Hall. This is for Mark. I understand you've been communicating with some pickleball players about relining or lining some of the courts, tennis courts for pickleball and resurfacing. And I really just want to make you aware at Lions Park, there's some significant cracking on the courts to the extent that somebody decided to fill in one of the gashes with cement. So you might want to check that out.
Mark Eckert, Assistant Director. Yeah, actually, Mike Wilgen flagged me down today and told me that same thing. Our courts, even this last 2 or 3 weeks, are moving all over the place. So we're getting complaints from all over the city. Danbury Parks is kind of a mess, and Lions wasn't too bad about a month ago, but it's getting worse now. So it's a problem. So We're gonna have to look at some of these. Some of them may have to get shut down because we're kind of late in the year to fix them. But That Perry's probably the worst one. It has cracks up to.
And it was bad. Okay.
But thanks for letting me know.
Did anybody have any other questions they wanted to go ahead and ask of staff? Oh, Val?
This is Val Renault, board member. On the staff updates, there was something about bidding for the north entrance on the community building. We had talked about the possibility of, making that accessible there with an elevator rather than at the back. So I wondered what we arrived at and what's being bid in terms of that north entrance.
Mark Hecker, Assistant Director. What we're bidding now is basically renovation of the existing lobby. So if you go in there now, the cubicles right there in front of the door, we want to move that to one side so we have better vision of people coming in and out of there. And it doesn't really address the ADA issues. That's a bigger capital project that we have. I think it's 4 or 5 years out. Yeah, it's close to $1 million. So this is mostly a get it so our staff kind of back against the wall with a desk so they can see the whole lobby and don't have people walking on two sides of them. Then we'll put new flooring down, new lighting, just a little more cosmetic improvements, I guess.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation. It looks like the downtown, the saw cut parking and the changes down there are going to stay. And I know the park staff's getting ready to do some holiday lighting. It's that time of October's coming up. So that'll be going on. The Santa Rescue, from last I saw, was canceled this year, but we will get the holiday lights out there, and our plans are to get them up as normal for this season.
This is Val Renault again, board member. I don't want to take too much time, but I always have a bunch of questions about the staff updates. On the remote IEP education at the Carnegie, so that's a collaboration with the school district, I assume. I was just curious, are paraprofessionals working with the kids remotely? Or I know that kids with IEPs are having a tough time in this remote world. So I just wondered if we could learn a little more about that.
Lee, you want to go for that, or you want me to?
Absolutely. I'd love to address that one. Actually, that is our staff member, Annette Dagan, has taken on that as requested. She saw the need and she actually took that and ran with it because it was not an area that had been it had been identified, but we had not taken care of that. And so within the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, she put it together relatively quickly to provide kids with an IEP a place to go with that online learning. I mean, we provided the spacing, the plexiglass, the location. She put the staff together. I mean, just on the fly. It was amazing of what she did and how she did it. And she'd be the first one to admit, I mean, she was more nervous on Sunday than the first day of school. She had her clothes set out the night before. She was there at 7 a.m. To greet them at 7:45 a.m. She takes care of that community for roughly all day through 5 o'clock. It's been very challenging the last couple of weeks. We've actually added a staff member. We've got 9 kids in there with an IEP. One of the things that touched me on that, which I was not aware of, the wide range of those kids with IEPs, that one of them indicated something about just making sure they have more good days than they do bad. I mean, that keeps everything in perspective, really. And you know, she's so passionate about what she does and the kids that she's able to, because she sees them in our summer camps and coffee house and everything that we do. Now, going forward, you know, we don't know exactly what the schools are going to do when they're going to open up for those kids to go back to school 5 days a week with their IEPs. But until that time gets there, and that's going to provide that opportunity for them at the Carnegie fully staffed. And then we're also working with the Boys and Girls Club, again, with the online learning that the schools are going to be providing in a phase, which I think was out recently. They'll be using the sports pavilion
As one of their locations to accommodate, I believe, 80 kids in that online learning space. And so, again, we're working with the Boys and Girls Club, but it was Annette Dagan that really provided that opportunity with the IEPs. And Derek, if you have anything to add that I missed.
And Derek Rogers, Lawrence Parks and Recreation.
We, at the special pops classes, we had quite a few of the paraprofessionals working with us, and some of those weren't from the Lawrence School District, and so that's been one of the toughest challenges, has been trying to get paras to work in our program. And I don't know if she has any paras currently with her. I know she's got a lot of staff down there, and the ratio is, I believe, like 1 to 3. They have it laid out where they have an area where the kids that need a break, they've got a room or an area where they can, almost like a recess, and then they've got a learning lab, and then they rotate around the building. So I'm very impressed what they're able to do, and I want to say the school district put something out for the kids with IEPs that they're going to start them back up around October 26. I just don't have that date in front of me, and how they're going to do it is at 5 days a week. But the school district, I think, realizes they need to get those kids back into a program. I'm very impressed by the kids that can actually learn with an iPad, especially with an IEP.
Derek, this is John Blozic. As being an ex-principal, this is cutting edge. I've really never heard that taken outside the building, the classroom, or the school walls. But with the rec department stepping up and doing this, that's unbelievable, because if the 9 members don't know what an IEP is or have not had students with IEPs, I worry more about kids with IEPs this time when they don't have actual face-to-face teaching or an adult working, because the patience and the learning skills that they take, you take your straight A kid or your, high achieving academic kid, this is cutting edge, man. That's something that should be told about the city, because this is the first time I've heard of it. Never heard it taken out of the walls of a school. Compliments to whoever's idea that was. If you or Penny or Lee, or that's a cool idea, man. As a principal, I like that.
It was Annette.
Annette Dagan. Yeah.
I didn't want to say that, but I knew that probably. That's cool. That is kudos to the rec department.
Yeah, Derek Rogers, Lawrence Parks and Recreation. You go over there, about brings tears to your eyes.
Okay, did we have any further comment for staff? Okay, seeing as there is none, I would remind you that, guys, that our next meeting is November 9th, same bat time, same bat channel. So at that time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Marilyn Hull. I move we adjourn.
Okay, Marilyn Hall with the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
This is Sandy Hall. I second.
All right, Sandy Hall with the second. Okay, and seeing everyone, I don't anticipate any sort of question or opposition, but I will go through the process anyway. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all for showing up. We appreciate it, and everybody have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Be safe.
Mm-hmm.